Hey guys, welcome back. A2D week 2 coming at you with our starts and sits and fantasy football this week. We got started last night with Thursday's game, so we're not going to include anybody from those lineups. But hopefully, you guys had Mike Williams in your lineup. I went against him, and he kind of gave it to me a little bit. So yeah, man. But that covers last night. But week 2 getting started here on Sunday. We got the rest of the starts and sits covered. As usual, I'm always here with Michael. What's up, big dog?
What's up, man? Yeah, last night was there was a couple in that game where I talked about, like Josh Palmer, I thought was going to be a good play. He ended up getting, like 13, 14 points. But yeah, there was a couple, if you played those kind of guys as desperation plays, then you did okay. But yeah, going forward, man, there's a lot this week I think that we can go over. So I know you get the most questions. Everybody's always hitting you up. I get a
I
lot of like
mean,
waiver ads, like
the
who
whole
should I
Josh Palmer thing, dude. We were talking. That's funny you mentioned it. Trevor, because Trevor has Keenan Allen in our league,
have?
and I'm in a group text with him and Eric and Kevin, and we're like, dude, why didn't you grab Josh Palmer? Like, if you have Keenan Allen and he was available, like that, you kind of would have did that. But it's not like he's really kicking himself now because what do you have? 13 points. He caught that one garbage touchdown. So you can make up for that. You can find some guys for that, and that's what we're here for. We're gonna go over a few guys that you might want to start in their flex. So yeah, starts and sits. As far as your lineup, you got any questions in your lineup of who you're going guys you're going back and forth between?
So mine is more of I'm waiting to see. I have so I think now that Dak went down, I think Tony Pollard and Z kind of get a bump up a little bit. So I actually have Tony Pollard in my flex spot right now. I still am forced to play Robert Woods in a wide receiver spot. So the two questions that I have this week are if Alan Lazard is healthy, I think I'm going to go with him over Robert Woods.
I
And
would.
then one of my questions that I have is uh, that running back, so that flex spot. So do I want to go with Tony Pollard, or do I want to go with someone like Kenneth Gainwell? Who do I think is going to see more targets? They kind of have the same role in their offense. So who do I see scores more points? I think that the Cowboys are going to be trailing a little bit more. They're going to need to be passing a little bit more. So I think Tony Pollard actually might see a little bit more work. But yeah, right there. I mean, those are two questions that I have. If you're in a similar boat, those are Tony Pollard. I think he's
That's I mean,
lightning the ball waiting to
I know
happen.
you're gonna do your thing regardless. But for me, I would go Pollard and then I would go Lazard. I would get Robert Woods. I have Allen Robinson in in our league, and then I actually have Robert Woods in the other league. I'm starting Jarvis Landry over him. I was able to pick up Robbie Anderson off of the player. I didn't use a waiver for him, but he was sitting there and he had 8 targets last week. We kind of talked about him last week, so I'm like, dude, I was able to get him. So I'm going between Jarvis Landry and Robbie Anderson in my for my wide receiver 3 spot. That's the one spot I got to choose in that league. Currently, I have Jarvis in there. I think that in order to beat Tampa, you got to throw. So New Orleans is going to need to be throwing it. So I think Olave, Jarvis, and even Michael Thomas, they're guys that you might be able to get away with starting this week. So yeah, that's why I'm going with Jarvis. I'm pretty like he's been in my lineup. He has the lowest projection. He has a lower projection than Robbie, but I just you go on volume. And last week, I think he had like 9 targets, 7 catches, 100 yards.
Mm.
So it looks like Jameis likes him. So for me, I'm gonna lean with Jarvis in that one. But yeah, for you, dude, I'll go Lazard. It's hard. Robert Woods. Same with Allen Robinson. Like, yeah, do I think Allen Robinson is gonna bounce back? Yeah, I do. I really do. But not enough to start him. I'm not that guy. Like I got other options. So yeah, I'm not gonna go with him. And I feel basically the same exact way because I have Robert Woods in my other lineup. Like I can't start him this week. So dude, I picked up Zay Jones in our league, and I think that because he had like 8 or 9 targets last week too. So I think there are guys you could actually get that I feel a little bit more comfortable than Robert Woods at this point, which is kind of crazy to say.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, man. Every time that you kind of go away from him, that's when he
Write
goes
him
off for
off,
28
right?
points. My whole question is the health of Alan Lazard. Alan Lazard is going to be my wide receiver 3. It's just I'm waiting for him to be ready to go. He's gonna be Aaron's guy.
So is Aaron Rodgers. Yeah.
I've been saying that all preseason. I think it was pretty clear last week that Aaron doesn't have faith in his rookies. So you're gonna see Alan Lazard have a lot of targets when he's ready to rock. So that's just my only question. I have my other league. I have a pretty stacked lineup. I have like 6 running backs, and one question that I have. It's kind of probably going to be an unpopular decision, but I'm actually sitting David Montgomery against the Packers this week, and I'm going to start Miles Sanders over him. I talked about this in our DFS show. I think Miles Sanders is going to have a pretty decent game. He's projected like 2 points lower than Monty is, but Khalil Herbert, had a pretty big showing last week, and that might be more of a 50-50 than we think.
That's an interesting point because I actually I had the first overall pick, so I went Jonathan Taylor, and I got Kelsey, Mike Evans as my first 3, and then I went Montgomery. I went safe, and so they like to call it. It's not looking so safe anymore. Fortunately, I have Kareem Hunt and Ramondre Stevenson, so I have a little bit of depth at running back there. But yeah, those two were like, I thought Montgomery was a lock, RB2, set and forget all season long. And man, week 1 has you feeling some type of way. That's for sure. It does for me. So is he a guy? That's a good question. That's a good point. Is he a guy that you are starting? I am. Like I said, I happen to have Kareem Hunt in the flex and Montgomery as RB2 this week. So just because my receivers, I got Godwin who's banged up. Robert Woods doesn't look like Bobby Trees yet. So yeah, I'm going with Kareem Hunt. I'm going with Montgomery. Hopefully Monty can take some of that volume back, man. Like that was the thing before, is he used to always have all the volume, but Khalil Herbert, that was like almost looked like a true 50-50 split, or maybe 55 for Khalil.
Yeah. Last week was a really really kind of, it was an anomaly game. Like that's not going to happen again. I mean, that was a flood game. People were getting stopped in their tracks and stuff like that. Sliding for 40 yards, stuff like that. So I think Monty will probably have a little bit better of a game. Will probably have better traction. There might have been equipment issues. Who knows what happened last week? But this week, I think on Monday Night Football, that Philly and Minnesota game is going to be a pretty high scoring game. So you kind of want to play anybody you can in that matchup. Another question I got this week was Deontay Johnson and how he's looking in that offense. Guys, I think Deontay Johnson is a top 20 receiver in football. He's definitely a wide receiver too. So you're going to start someone like that every week, depending on who you have behind him. I mean, if you're stacked at receiver, but now is this going to be a week where he goes absolutely ballistic? Probably not. He's not going to score 30 points this week, most likely, but you're still going to start him. When you talk about starts and sits, you're kind of going to go down to your flex spots and maybe your wide receiver 3 position. So Deontay Johnson, for those who asked, start him.
Yeah, start him. Fire him up. He's basically a lock almost, unless he's dealing with injury. You would think, they paid him. He gets volume. Some guys, my guys here, Mike Evans, Tom Brady, they're on everyone's sit list this week because we're playing the Saints. Tom Brady is 0-4 against the Saints. Mike Evans, him and Lattimore have had some ups and downs. He scores though. And to me, he's going to get volume with Godwin out, with Gage banged up. He's going to get a little more looks. Normally he doesn't get the looks, but to me, if you drafted him, you probably have to start him. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time with the receiver, but quarterback, man, that's a position like I always talk about getting able to stream. So if you have Brady and you are going to sit him, John, I'm playing against John. Who's not going to sit him. He's currently starting him. But is there a guy that you might want to target? Like, dude, Aaron Rodgers in my other league got dropped. I just picked up Marcus Mariota. Eric picked up Carson Wentz. So there are some guys out there that you could have that you can get away with starting.
So this week, if you're streaming, you're absolutely right about Tom and New Orleans, man. That's kind of a weird matchup for him. He gets fired up against that game. I don't know if he gets in his own head. I mean, last year he did pretty poor against them. Mike Evans should he should still see targets, but Marshawn Lattimore is actually a pretty tough matchup for him. For whatever reason, he still finds a way to catch a touchdown against him. The guy that you want to start in that game is going to be Julio Jones. So if you have Julio Jones, go ahead and fire him up. Mike Evans, you're going to fire him up only because it's Mike Evans. You have to. But Tom Brady, man, if you're going to on waiver, this might be a week to sit him and go for someone like Carson Wentz. Go for somebody like if people overreacted to the Trey Lance last week, go and get somebody like Trey Lance. Go and get somebody.
In our league, let me give you the few names available that I would. I mean, Trubisky's at the top as far, but I wouldn't do that.
No.
Matt Ryan, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, some pretty slim pickings, man, for John.
There's a deep sleeper,
Those
man. There's a deep one that I want to get into, and that's Jared Goff this week. He looked pretty decent against Philly for the most
He's
part.
the second highest projection in ours.
Yeah. You know, if people talk shit on Jared Goff, man, I've been high on him. I think he has a better offense this year. I actually like Detroit in that game, and they're actually favorited for the first time, I think, in 2 years or some stupid number. So they're favored in that game, and there's going to be a lot of points scored in that game, believe it or not. And I think Jared Goff is probably safe to go for 20-plus points. Him, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Hawkinson, you're going to fire up everybody on that offense this week. And, you know, really anybody on the Redskins offense, you're going to fire up that week.
Yeah, I was going to say, because they can't stop anybody. The good thing about the Lions is most of their games are going to have some points in them because they can't stop people, but they could also score some points. They got some talent on the offensive side for sure. So most Lions games, to your point, you're going to want to get some guys in those lineups.
Yeah, so that's something that I might consider starting, even though, you know, as far as talent,
Tom Brady,
but this matchup is pretty dangerous for Tom.
It's 0-4 in the regular season.
Yeah, he's a different person in the playoffs, but
it's funny because he was talking about that too, and he goes, "Yeah, they've really beat us up in the regular season." It's so nonchalant. He just dropped that little shot in there for you guys.
Yeah. So with Godwin out, I mean, it's one of maybe, I'm not going to say it's a trap game because New Orleans seems like they could be a decent team, but this could be.
Godwin's out. Lenny's banged up. Gage is banged up. Donovan Smith is going to be out. Ryan's even Tristan Wirth didn't practice much this week, dude. Like, we're banged up. We already lost some guys up front too. So offensively, I mean, defensively we're pretty good, but offensively, yeah. But that's the reason I think Evans, who some guys have set before and it worked out for him against the Saints, but this time around he's gonna have to get looks, man. Kind of like in the playoffs last year, you saw his numbers and everything tick up a little bit because Godwin went out and guys were going down. Mike's there. If he's the last guy there, Tom's still gonna look his way. So
I would still start him. I'd still start him, and obviously Julio I think is the biggest start there. And then even Rachaad White. I mean, you might think about putting him in if since Lenny's banged up, they might use him a little bit more this week. And who knows? They might be trailing that game, and Tommy might be looking to dump it down. So that might be a deep sleeper there too.
He's I don't know if about playing because I think Lenny's going to tough it out. He was able to get a couple limited practices this week, and as long as we're in it, Lenny's going to be the guy, I would think. But man, that one little slip, man. Rachaad White's worth having on a roster. If you don't have him on a roster, he's definitely worth it because he's a complete bag, and if he gets all that volume, he's going to be nice to have. So, yeah, man. I actually have Brady and Evans in my other league, and I can't sit Tom. Like there's not enough guys on my bench. Like I would have to drop maybe Robert Woods, and I can't do that yet to stream a quarterback. So I'm gonna go with Tommy. I'm gonna see how it goes. I want to know in that one, so I got a little bit of wiggle room, at least. So, but I mean, another couple guys I have here. The running back situation for the Los Angeles Rams: Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. Man, in our league, I think I see Michael over there gonna roll the dice with Akers again. There's no way I'd be able to do that. For me, that's a Henderson start all day long. Akers looks like he's in the doghouse, so for me, I'd be going with Henderson Jr. and actually feeling pretty good about it. They're playing against the Falcons. They should get a lead. We'll see. They looked pretty bad last week too, so you never know. Josh Allen was running all over him. Maybe Mariota does the same. But yeah, man, I would go Henderson for sure.
I'd start Henderson. I'd sit Cam Akers until it's one of those things where if you sit him and he goes off, you actually feel better about it. You don't kick yourself because now, hey, at least you have Cam Akers back. But if you sit him and he goes for 5 points again, you're starting to look at maybe he's not going to be part of this offense like we thought he was going to be. And he's not really tradable. So you bench him, wait for it to come out. But it's starting to, after 2 or 3 weeks, that's when it starts to get grim, So I would definitely sit him this week. He would not be anywhere near my starting lineup after last week. He only saw 12 snaps. I think he had 3 carries, 0 yards, 0 fantasy points. So that's how I feel about Cam Akers right now. And it's hard to say because he was one of my boomers this year. But that's until he shows something. And after what Sean McVay said, hey, he has to maximize his opportunities he does get. That's a little tea leaf, man, that you look into that. He may not be seeing that many snaps. So, but when he does get in there, he needs to maximize them.
And I probably should have brought this up when we were talking about Detroit, but Kevin Cornejo, he hit me up. He would hit me up asking about who we should start at tight end. He's got Taysom Hill, who actually did pretty damn good last week, and we were talking about, and then he's got TJ Hawkinson. So, and we were talking about how the Lions can score points. They're in a pretty good matchup. So, I mean, for me, that's Hawkinson. You drafted Hawkinson. I know Taysom Hill. Is this we did overreactions last week? Is this a big time overreaction from a Saints fan or what?
I don't know. You don't start him at quarterback, but you start him at tight end. Maybe, maybe. So here's what I would do for him, because you can start a tight end in our flex spot. Depending on who his flex is, you might play both of them. Honestly, Taysom Hill is the most frustrating fantasy player that we've ever seen ever, because you don't know how to play him. But he might be like a cream. Like he's an ultimate flex guy. So honestly, depending on who his flex is, I mean, I might play both of them this week. The thing about Tampa, though, is they have really fast linebackers. They can get side to side, and they're very physical.
I don't think he's going to hit the long ones. It's going to come down to touchdowns. Sorry.
Matchup wise, I don't see it being a great matchup for him. But Taysom Hill is one of those guys, man. Like, he's not matchup proof, but he's going to get the ball, and they're going to try to force feed him the ball somehow, some way. He's going to get fantasy points, man. It's just I don't think he's going to score 21 points like he did last week.
Yeah, no. This week, like you just said, we got some linebacker. I don't think he's going to hit the long one. He had 2 long runs, and he scored a touchdown. So, to me, you're relying on him scoring a touchdown. Yeah, they're going to find a way to get him touches, but his 10 touches are going to be – some of them might be a throw. Some of them might be incomplete. He could have, like, nothing, Mm-hmm. So that's the thing for him. He could have 20. He could have 2. So, for me, Hawkinson – you drafted him pretty high. He's going to be more of a focal point. They got Jared Goff, who can score points. So for me, I would go Hawkinson for me.
Yeah. The last one that I've had a conversation with about this week is, this one affects me too, is the backfield in Jacksonville, the James Robinson and Travis Etienne. You might start both of them, honestly. I mean, I don't think you're going to have both of them, but James Robinson was a pretty big surprise last week. But he was getting the goal line stuff, and you heard something about Travis Etienne.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, you heard something about Travis Etienne about how he's not ready and all this kind of stuff. Well, he was a drop away from having 17 points in that game, and that would have been the quietest 17 points you'd ever seen. So, I still think that he's still a good play, and you got to play him since you drafted him probably in the 3rd or 4th round. But James Robinson is still there too. So you might, if you have him over Etienne, I wouldn't start them both in the same lineup. But
right,
if you ask me right now, if you had to pick one over the other, I'd pick James Robinson. If you do have both, play James Robinson until further notice. But that's another game against the Colts where, Etienne might be come out of nowhere and score 20 points.
Yeah, but they're both playable. I have Kareem Hunt in my other league. And actually in both leagues, and I'm going against Chubb in both leagues too. What are the chances? Going against Mike Williams and Nick Chubb in both leagues. But yeah, dude, I'm going against Chubb in both leagues, and I have Kareem Hunt in both leagues. So it's like AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones. There are some teams that have multiple running backs that you can start, and that looks like it's going to be one of them. They both are a focal point of that offense. I mean, they might be the two best players in that offense. Christian Kirk, kind of. Zay Jones is getting some looks. But yeah, man, so they're gonna get some volume, both of them. They're both gonna get 15 probably play designs for them per game each, and then the rest is gonna be Trevor Lawrence doing his thing. But yeah, so I could see you starting both those guys for sure. Like you said, not in the same lineup though. Another guy that's on everyone's radar right now, Dameon Pierce. Trevor's got him in his lineup. We talked about Rex Burkhead last week quite a bit, and if we're doing that, it's obviously not a good sign for Mr. Pierce. There's no way you can start him, right? Like I said with dude, like you can't be too loyal to these guys, especially where you drafted him. Well, he was actually drafted pretty high, so maybe if you invested a lot, there's some running backs out there that are worthy of consideration. We talked about Rashad White a little bit ago, but I don't know, like you can't start him right now with Lenny going to be good to go. So running backs, man, what running backs? Is there any running backs that you could think that are worthy of? I mean, we got Amir Abdullah on the waivers, Ito Benjamin, Dante Ford, and Mike Davis, Zach Moss, dude. There's some slim pickings out there. Kenyon Drake, Boston Scott, Samaje Perine, Chuba Hubbard.
So no, and no.
Right.
The one that I would honestly that I would think about picking up and stashing as a free agent if you have the roster spot or if you can find somebody is Eno Benjamin. Now he's assuming the Chase Edmonds role. James Conner is one of those guys that like he gets banged up every single year for a couple games. Eno Benjamin at that point becomes a pretty monstrous back and a pretty good steal. Now you're picking him up as a security thing, especially if you have James Conner. You need to have Benjamin behind him. That's going to be a pretty fast offense. I think that once everybody comes back healthy and back from suspension, that might be a better offense than people think. But that's the only one out of those guys that really are going to have any kind of a future or a possible future. I mean, Kenyon Drake, once Dobbins is ready, he's going to fade away. All these Boston Scott's, the third back. I mean, I'm not touching any of them except for Benjamin was the only name that I kind of.
Dude, yeah, and that's because Rex Burkhead isn't available. In my other league, we got Rex Burkhead, Zach Moss. Dude, somebody dropped Tony Pollard in that league. That's pretty crazy.
Overreactions. We talked about last week. Overreaction. Somebody dropped Ramondre Stevenson in my league. That's right. An overreaction. I mean, again,
Aaron Rodgers got dropped in the same league, dude.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen again this week. You're gonna see more and more after 2 bad weeks. You're gonna see somebody drop. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but someone had Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith lays another egg. I mean, he's gonna get dropped in most leagues. And I mean, he's going to come back and once AJ Brown is getting doubled, that's when Devontae is going to come back and be a guy. So that's a guy that you might want to trade for low right now. Cause again, he's going to wake up a little bit eventually. So, but
there's Rex Burkhead, JD McKissick, Mark Ingram. I don't know if I'd go Mark Ingram, but McKissick is a guy I would feel okay with maybe getting
as a stash, maybe. Brian Robinson was on the field today.
Well, I mean, over Dameon, because Dameon Pierce, you're just hoping for a touchdown. McKissick, maybe not this week because they're playing Detroit, so there's a chance they could have a lead. But if they're going to be trailing a lot of games, but even then, they use Gibson heavy in that pass game. So yeah, McKissick. Maybe I'm still stuck on last year, dude. Yeah,
I'm not ready to overreact on Dameon Pierce yet, dude. They played the Colts last week, and that's actually a pretty good defense.
You might have to stick with them. Might have to give him one more go.
Yeah, I'm not ready to write that off yet. I'm still not on the Rex Burkhead trade. He has those games where he's heavily involved, and he has those games where he's heavily not. So now all of a sudden, he's there. He might have one good week. He might be there this week, score 10 points. Dameon Pierce, I think, is the future there. I think on lighter matchups, you're probably going to feel better about it. I'm not sure who Houston plays this week, but
that's a big one though, because there's clearly some slim pickings on the wire in both my leagues. I just went over both of them, dude. So if you got Dameon Pierce in your lineup, let us know. Hopefully you were smart enough to add an insurance policy or two, and maybe you can go with one of them, or let us know who's on your waiver list, guys, because Damian Pierce, he's a guy that is
I'm
hard to
gonna
start right now.
I'm gonna be real at this point. Like Damian Pierce should have been your insurance policy. You shouldn't have an insurance policy for him. He should have been your insurance policy. And I mean, now you're kind of wondering if you should go for
Man, some
another insurance
people
policy.
overreact on the preseason too. They overreact on that too, man. That's crazy.
So, but
I'm
yeah,
gonna
I
let
mean,
me.
other than that, I mean, I think like I talked about on DFS, anybody that you have in like a Detroit Washington game, you're gonna want to start everybody there. But then we talked about Pittsburgh and New England. I think you're kind of sitting everybody there, right?
Yeah, other than Deontay, Najee Harris, who he's not even on the injury report anymore, so he's a full go. Dude, I'm just gonna keep help. But people are talking about Elijah Moore on the Jets because he was a guy. I know you liked him. I talked about Garrett Wilson, who had 8 targets. Corey Davis, I think, had 10 targets. So not a lot to go around for Elijah Moore. He didn't have a lot of targets. Their tight ends had some looks. Their running backs. So Elijah Moore, is he a guy that you're starting right now?
No, you're sitting him until Zach Wilson comes back. Plain and simple. That offense is going to be bad. You're gonna play the running backs. Honestly, I don't even know if I'm playing Brees Hall right now. I'm playing Michael Carter. He was the better running back last week. If you're desperate to play a Jets receiver, then you didn't draft very well. But I'm not. Elijah Moore is a guy that I'm going to play. They also played Baltimore last week, but I'm Elijah Moore is a guy I'm going to play once Zach Wilson comes back, weeks 5, 6, whenever he comes back. Nobody under Joe Flacco is going to get any of I don't care how many targets he could target one guy. Garrett Wilson could be that guy. I'm not playing any receiver in the Jets until Zach Wilson comes back.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Corey Davis who was actually the top guy, and
he probably will remain the top guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and is he a guy that you really feel comfortable? Potentially, Joe Flacco's a veteran, and if he locks into a guy, and if he keeps locking in, but like you said, it's the Jets. I don't, and the kid's gonna be back here soon, so that's gonna change things up a lot too, big time.
Hide your moms, because Zach Wilson's coming back.
Yeah, for sure, man.
But other than that, man, I can't really think of any other major starts that the question marks.
I mean, in my league, our league, my flex, dude, I've had I think 2 or 3 different guys in it now. I currently have Zach Ertz in there. I was thinking about what Kelsey did to the Cardinals last week, and Zach Ertz, he's actually completely clear of any injury designation. So he might be like Hollywood Brown and him are going to be like the top 2 targets, I think, for Kyler. So I think I might want to go with him, dude, and go with the double tight end this week. I already started Gerald Everett, picked him up and got away with the spot start. He had 13, but my flex right now it's going to come down to Julio Jones, T. Higgins, or see, I got Kareem Hunt on the bench, dude, or Zach Ertz. I got 4. Those out of those 4, I can only play 2.
I think out of those 4, Julio Jones and Kareem Hunt. I mean, it's easy for me. T. Higgins, he looks like he's going to play. I was about to bring up Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd, he might be a sneaky start this week. They're going to throw the ball around the yard, but Jamar Chase is going to abuse Diggs. I mean, he's going to get his points. I hate to keep keeping smacking on Trayvon Diggs, but as far as fantasy wise, he gives up a lot of yardage, a lot of catches until he'll get those interceptions. But any receiver that goes against Trayvon Diggs, you want to play. He gambles way too much. Those big plays are going to be there. Jamar Chase is going to absolutely assault the guy, just like Mike Evans assaulted the guy last week. So there's that. But out of that entire game, like Tony Pollard and Tyler Boyd are the 2 that I would. Those are the like out of those 2. Like if those were your flex options, who would you rather play?
It would depend for the Higgins situation, because if Higgins plays, then I'd go Pollard, and the Pollard thing, like they're gonna load the box and they're gonna try to stop Zeke, so they're gonna have to get creative, and you can do that with Pollard, and you're gonna be trailing, and he's a better receiver. So for me, Pollard, wouldn't be surprised to see him get 7 targets, probably 5 catches. Like he's gonna be I think he's going to be solid flex play this week for sure.
Get
And
those
he's
fucking
actually,
trick
I
plays.
think the Dak injury might have benefited him. You know, it hurt everybody else, hurt the team, hurt literally everybody else. But he's the one guy that actually it might have helped out a little bit because he's a young quarterback's kind of best friend. He can get open in the pass game, and he's explosive, man. He can hit a home run at any time too. So Pollard, he's gonna be good here. Like I said, Zeke's gonna be seeing a lot of loaded boxes, so I don't think he's gonna be hurt by losing Dak now that he's gonna be the focal point. So yeah, Zeke, if you got him, he might be a sit. They're playing the Bengals, but I mean, can you sit Zeke? I know Chris Camarino in our league, he's got him. He's gonna be starting him. He's a Cowboy fan too, so he's definitely gonna be starting him. But man, these are the decisions we're coming down to this time of year. So if you have Zeke, you have even Tom Brady. If you have guys that you're questionable to start against really tough matchups, let us know. Comment your questions, your starts and sits. Anybody you got questions with, we're gonna post our lineups and. Like I said, make sure you guys subscribe. Stay with us all season long. It's only week 2. We just getting warmed up.
Yeah, make sure you let us know below, guys, and also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, at Agree to Disagree SP. Make sure that you guys are sending us your questions. Like BT said, subscribe. We need those subscribers, man. We're trying to reach some more people. We're trying to interact with some more people. So hit that subscribe button. And until next week, enjoy week 2 and talk to you next week.